I have seen a viral video of a Chinese person speaking fluent Arabic. So by just pure surprise, I'm like, well, that's interesting. I'm going to click on that. And I click on that, and it is CGTN Arabic. So it is the official Chinese television in the Arabic version. 1 million views. I was like, oh, what's going on? So I started watching. And it's saying that the US created coronavirus, destroying our homes and all of that stuff. So it gets you riled up and exciting. But this is entertainment. So like if people are I think it's important for people to like, yes, this is entertainment. This is not the news. This is a filtered version of the news in which somebody is being paid $1 million a year to make you stick watching television so the ad agencies will make more money. Trump is bad, the narrative of Trump is bad, and therefore we're going to downplay any good he does and then highlight only the bad things he does. The Middle East is the opposite of Las Vegas. What happens in the Middle East doesn't stay in the Middle East. It's not, authoritarianism is not cool. Civil war is not cool. And really, other than spending all their time bashing America and bashing how terrible life is, maybe they should work to improve it.
Hi guys! Welcome to my channel. My name is Yeonmi Park. I'm a North Korean de facto human rights activist. Today in this video, I have a very interesting guest. He's my long friend from Iraq. His name is Faisal Al Mutar. He is the founder and president of an NGO called Ideas Beyond Borders, based in New York. He doesn't really need much introduction. I cannot wait to welcome him and let him introduce himself to you guys. So Faisal, welcome to my show. Thank you so much for coming onto the show.
Thank you so much for having me, and congratulations for starting the show. I see it's having a lot of success, and I'm happy to talking to you virtually, and we have met in person many times. So I'm so happy to be connected again.
Oh, thank you. You're actually first non-North Korean guest to into the show.
I don't think I pass as North Korean, so I cannot even claim to be one. Yeah.
But you're quite close to that. So before we go into your story, can you give us some introduction of who you are?
Of course. So my name is Faisal Al Mutar. I am originally from Iraq, and I was born in 1991. So that is right after the first Gulf War, when Iraq invaded Kuwait, and then there was the first war with the United States. And I grew up in a residential neighborhood under the regime of Saddam Hussein. And my neighborhood was filled of Iraq, like generals of the army of Saddam Hussein. And then when the second war happened in 2003, my neighborhood turned from residential to a war zone. And there were multiple militias, and mainly the main one is Al Qaeda. So they were fighting, which is the same group that did 9/11. Just for reference for those who are born recently. So it's the same group, but it was the Iraq faction. So it was a kind of a different version of authoritarianism. So we went from the surveillance control state into chaos. And my crazy self at the time, when I was 15 or 16, I became really engaged in the subject of freedom and the subject of pluralism, which is really meaning people from different sects and different religions getting along under one citizenship and one identity. And that got me into trouble. So I had to leave the country and left to Lebanon. And then from Lebanon, I left to Malaysia. And from Malaysia, I started a blog that eventually grew to 300,000 people. That's now called Global Conversations. And then, which is about discussing international affairs and really getting people engaged about these values. And as of 2017, I founded an organization called Ideas Beyond Borders, which is really my life journey turning into a mission. So it's really a promise that I made when I was leaving Iraq, is that the values of freedom, the values of enlightenment, needs to be made available, accessible, and need to be fought for. So the mission of the organization is to make the inaccessible accessible and to make ideas mainly about the subject of freedom and human rights and democracy available in Arabic, because most of that is not available in the language that's spoken by more than 400 million people. So we're based in New York, and we are a team of about 125 people. And most of us are based in the Middle East, but we have a New York office, which is really the headquarters in which where the kind of the grand vision is being set, but the team and the implementation is pretty much by the people, for the people in the region that we work at.
Wow. So I really hope that, I mean, not many people make me nervous, but having you this channel, I'm so nervous right now.
Nervous for me, I think I would expect better.
So you and I have a lot of similarity, right? Iraq and North Korea regime were so, they were creating this like propaganda and demonizing Americans to us. Both of us like growing up learning bad things about Americans.
Pretty much,
And
yeah.
then, and both of like countries were invaded both countries. I mean, America came to North Korea during the Korean War, and they of course invaded Iraq. And where do you think this is going right now? Like, what is the future for us after all this mess?
Yeah, I think you definitely. I mean, there's a lot of commonalities. I mean, how I met you was really when I found the article on the Guardian that was written about you and your work in, I think, in 2013, 2014, and I was like, I have to meet this person because we definitely have a lot in common, from really the kind of the authoritarianism that we face, and of them really having kind of a common enemy, which is in a way the West broadly, but also the United States in particular. And I mean, where it's heading, I mean, I could tell you from kind of the Middle East context is over. So I left Iraq in 2009, end of 2009, and at the time Al Qaeda was like the most extreme terrorist group. Now Al Qaeda looks like peace activists by comparison by the people who replaced them. So the rise of ISIS as of really almost half a decade now, and the situation there is only getting worse to a large extent. And however, so that's the kind of the negative side. But what makes me optimistic, or what I'm really investing in, is that there are many people like us over there who do believe in these ideas and adhere to them, and that many of them are adhering to them as we speak because they have lived under authoritarianism. They have lived under, and they're kind of sick of it. They are looking for an alternative. So there's that. The negative side is that obviously authoritarianism is all stronger, but the other side, there's the kind of the positive side, that there's a pushback by mainly the youth. And so, I mean, I'm not a believer in fate. I believe fate is something to be created. And that's why I am trying to play my role in deciding the fate of how the things go. So, and I'm a big believer. I mean, that's the reason I'm investing really my life, my time, my security into this project, because I think is that these like authoritarianism is bad, and I mean calling it bad is understatement, right? I mean, in whether it's kind of the loss of freedoms of kind of the subjugation. Like, I mean, growing up, for example, there were times in which they killed barbers. The barbers, the ones who shave hair, and mainly is like, oh, we in our version of religion, a man should not shave. So they start killing people who don't shave. In some of the occasions is that if they see a man holding a hand with a woman, or and she's not married to him or related to him, sometimes that gets you into trouble. You might get killed, you might get harassed. So, and this is like kind of what I call social authoritarianism. That's like societal pressures and all that stuff. And then there's kind of the trickle down authoritarianism, in which if you publish an article or write an article or speak the wrong thing against the regime, at the time it was Saddam Hussein who controlled the country for almost 3 decades, you not only you get killed, your family will get killed, your relatives might actually get into trouble. And so, and then what came after that is chaos and destruction. And many people, like after, I know we're kind of in the young generation, but those of us who are like, were, I would say like 50 or 60 years old, pretty much all what they saw in life is war. So like if you were born in Iraq in like let's say this, if you're in the fifth, 60s, by the time you're 18, there was the Iraq-Iran war. By the time you're 30, there was the third Gulf War. From the third Gulf War, from first Gulf War to the second, there was sanctions. So it was both sanctions on the economy and sanctions by the regime. And then the regime is done, then there's like another civil war. So pretty much all your life, like from the moment you're born to the moment you die, really, is built on conflict and authoritarianism and destruction, and that's that needs to change. And there's a lot of people from there. I mean, what I think is, I mean, the belief that I have is that I think that the change has to come from within. Not to sound like a Buddhist, but I think like we need to empower those who believe in these ideals from within to create the change within our societies, because there's going to be a Western solution to Iraq. There's going to be an Iraqi solution to Iraq by the Iraqi people. However, it can be helped by the voices of freedom, the voice who care about these ideals, who aren't necessarily beneficiaries of Iraq is going to be better or not, but rather is that they think that the world will be better if more people support these values, and there's more unity among the free world, and there's less division. So really, I think, I mean, it depends on the mood of the day, whether I think I'm winning or losing. So there are obviously times, and I'm sure with you too, in which things look sometimes hopeless. You look at the news and you see destruction, you see all of that. But at the same time, you receive an email or a message from somebody who's like, "Oh, I read one of your articles, and I've read some of your books, and I'm so happy that you exist. I'm so happy that you support us. I'm starting this youth group in this town that was inspired by your work, and I want to build on it." And for example, there are protesters inside the Middle East calling us like, "Oh, please, can we print your books? Can we, can you support us leading a freedom revolution or anti-corruption?" So that definitely is what really keeps me going, is that there are a lot of people constantly emailing us, constantly inspired by our content. And my dream one day is really to get all of us, those of us, regardless of country, of origin and stuff, is just really to form like a unity, to stand, because if the authoritarians are united, we need to be united too. And part of my work, other than really just to help the Middle East, is also kind of unite and organize the voices of enlightenment against the voices of tyranny and darkness.
That is, I think, very similar what you and I do, right? I also try my best to get information inside North Korea and try to change people's minds. I think in order to change to happen, people need to know what's happening.
Of
And
course,
I think what you're doing is also translating those books, right? That wasn't available. Was it banned in the past, or just wasn't allowed?
So part of so in our selection of content is, especially on the book part, because the book is kind of a major project to do, is that we select books that otherwise will be banned or censored. So part of the kind of category, because as a US based organization, we're protected by the First Amendment, we can translate and really any book, and then we make the book online. So in that way, the publishing houses in the Middle East who cannot publish this book in their country can still be able to spread our book and really get it access to the readers. So we selectively talk about the books that, I mean, there are a lot of books in the world, right? And there are books that are not censored in the Middle East. If you actually some of them are finally censored. For example, Harry Potter is banned in some of the countries in the Middle East because it promotes witchcraft. So that's why it's banned. 1984 is banned in Kuwait and some other places. And actually, the New York Times did a good article that listed many of the books banned in the Middle East, and that's 1984 is one of them. Um, and however, there is a very interesting proverb in Arabic called "Mamnu' marghub," which means what is prohibited is wanted. So in some cases, when the book is banned, actually it gets a lot of readership.
Oh, wow.
So because many of these people don't like the government. So when the government censors something, they're like, okay, what's going on? Why is the government censoring this book? So part of the appeal of why many people like download our content and share our content is because we are the counterculture. And then when people like see the book that's being banned, which is like science book or how, they're like, really, this is what the government banned? So what they're afraid of. So in a way, is like just by the fact they access these banned content, it raises a sense of skepticism and doubt about really how sensible are the leaders and the dictators who are control. Like, why would the government of Kuwait ban 1984? Why are Egyptian government banning books about freedom of speech? And they're not talking about like violent, hateful books. We're talking about like really classical literature from the world. And this in itself, like just people accessing that is creating a sense of like, you know what, this authoritarians are telling us what to read and what to write and which girl I should be girlfriend with and which I should date. And so they're regulating whether I should drink alcohol or whether I should not drink alcohol. And so that they're having just having that like sense of freedom is really trickling down into people thinking that authoritarianism in general or these authoritarian regimes are bad. So that's what I think is really important part of just making information accessible and getting. I mean, I remember when you mentioned that like movies in North Korea are banned and because they are afraid of the idea that there is an alternative. They don't want to show that there is an alternative. There's one truth, and if you don't subscribe to that, you are persecuted. You're put in jail. You're harmed, and many people are sick of that.
Right.
And the moment people get like really a grain of freedom, it feels so good. It's just like, wow, I was able to find it. Like in Iraq under Saddam Hussein, satellite television was banned, and if they find like a dish into in your house, you might get into a lot of trouble. So like, so you see, like some people they put the satellite thing under like a chicken house. So they put like chicken and they put satellite. So in that way, it hides because we were not allowed to see television from overseas. So there were only like 3-4 mainstay television in which Saddam Hussein is speaking there. And then they show you some movies, and then it's like the movies are like edited, and then they try to link it into like how bad America is, and they ingrain into you all the time. And the moment that, so they were constantly afraid of people watching other stations. They were worried about people being exposed to different ideas, and so really just giving people access to these ideas is the starting point to a freedom revolution, or like people really trickling down into creating a youth movement or a freedom movement that eventually transform the society.
Yeah, I think that is also such a good things for also people who were born with this freedom, who never had to fight for reading 1984 by George Orwell or On Liberty by John Stuart Mill, right? They can read whatever they want, but they don't understand how rare this glimpse of truth is for the people like us born in North Korea or Iraq. So before we move on, I want to ask you, right, there has been rise of Communist Party influence in Middle East. And what's going on? Like, what is China doing with the Middle East?
Thank you. Very, very good question. So that is something that is really uncovered and not much covered by the media, unfortunately, in my opinion. is, and something that I actually noticed as of February of this year. And so the moment COVID was like really bubbling up around the world, but also bubbling in the Middle East, I have seen a viral video of a Chinese person speaking fluent Arabic. So by just pure surprise, I'm like, well, that's interesting. I'm going to click on that. And I click on that, and it is CGTN Arabic. So it is the official Chinese television in the Arabic version. 1 million views. I was like, oh, what's going on? So I started watching. And it's saying that the US created coronavirus. So it actually came to me by surprise. I wasn't watching this. I wasn't. So immediately my instinct is like, what is going on over here? And I started digging and digging more. To number one, I was like, what is CGTN? And then I go, is like, CGTN is run by the Chinese Foreign Ministry.
Yes.
And it has an Arabic facing channel, it has a multiple channel. And it is main interest is to spread pro-Chinese propaganda and anti-American propaganda, and so any conflicts in the Middle East. Look at what America is doing in Libya. Look at how the bad things America is doing this. Look at America. So like when I started digging more and more, and it is a very organized media propaganda machine. And one of the things that I was found also interesting is, which I really didn't make the connection when it would happen. So we translated a lot of articles about the Uyghur community in Xinjiang, and our page when we did that was bombarded by bots and conspiracy theorists and all of that. This is lies. You are an organization run by the CIA and stuff like that. I was like, oh, what's going on? What the hell's going on? These are people who are like Arabs, like who believe the narrative. And then I was when I started digging more into the GTN official television, so the Chinese official television was also spread this conspiracy theory that this is not real. This is an American-based conspiracy theory that there is any education camps or concentration camps. It's all fake. It doesn't happen. They show like videos of Muslims in China dancing and getting along and singing and stuff like that. And they have made sure that these videos and this content is watched by tens of millions of Arabs, feeding an already existing conspiracy theory narrative. So they're like, oh, don't believe like when CNN is telling that there's education camps. This is all fake American propaganda. No such a thing exists. This is all lies. This is all so China is, I mean, this is, and when I like, this is all recent. So this is like Russia Today existed for a while. So that's also the equivalent of CGTN. But CGTN is like very recent. And I mean, MSNBC actually, to their credit, and NBC News actually took our report and covered it on the news media in the US. So and we were like the only ones talking about it, which is kind of crazy. And so add to that, so there's the full media narrative: America sucks, China is a friendly country, we are your friend. So there's that. And also there is a huge trade deals happening now. With, like, China is expanding into the Middle East from an economic standpoint. They have signed up a big, I think, a 400 either billion or million deal with Iran to build their electricity. They are working with Saudi Arabia to build a nuclear program. So they're expanding more and more. In Iraq, there is a lot of oil companies of China, from China, operating in Iraq. So they are presenting kind of a benign version. We're here to help you. We're your friend. America is bad. America harmed you. America, all of that stuff. And we are the replacement. And unfortunately, that narrative is selling. Many people are already thinking that, and there is no one to counter that. So part of the organization, part of what we do when starting from February, when we did discovery and we figured out this happening, is to actually create counter content to this nonsense that's being spread, and not necessarily push a pro-US agenda, but more like pro-fact agenda. No, the Uyghur thing is real. The coronavirus is not made by the CIA, and So really just to kind of create a counter narrative that doesn't exist. And really from negative side is fighting the misinformation, but also from positive side is really promoting facts and promoting freedom and all of our values. So we have launched a counter campaign, obviously I mean, we are like 0.001% the size of the Chinese foreign ministry budget. So we obviously have, I mean, our campaign have reached 30 million people. So we are getting there. However, it's like there's definitely a big fight needs to be done. It is, yeah, like I've been on so many like lectures and all that during this period, and many people like still do not think of this concept as like China and Middle East. Like it's still not resonating. Russia maybe because Russia intervened in Syria during the Syrian civil war, but it's still viewed like China and the Middle East are two separate entities. There's no, and so this is like something that I think that as anybody who is worried about the rise of authoritarianism and the thing about China and authoritarianism is that China is not gonna call out Turkey for human rights abuses. They're like, oh, you want to do human rights abuses? Go for it. We do the same in your country. So they are very appealing to the dictators of the Middle East because China will be like, okay, you give us money, we give you product, you do you. We're not gonna allow you. You want to be authoritarian? We like that too. So we do that in our country. So maybe we should do it in your country too. So and what is I'm really worried about, just to finish on this one, is the Chinese surveillance system happening in the Middle East. I mean, I have read this article on Atlantic on what they're doing in Xinjiang and in that area, on like cameras all around, figuring out people's movements. They read their article, they read their messages. So what I mean, the Middle East has censorship, but it is not the same level of China. So like there's no what's called the Chinese firewall or we don't have that yet in the Middle East. However, what I'm worried about is the Chinese technology of surveillance and authoritarianism gets exported to the Middle East. So that is something definitely will make it very difficult for human rights groups or all that to transfer any knowledge to because you are tracked. You are all the time tracked. You can send a text message. You cannot send and then even like things like, for example, what I think is like in China, you cannot search Tiananmen Square. So like they try to like censor, like if you search Hong Kong protests, you cannot do that. So imagine like if they do that in Egypt and there's like protests happening in the streets, but nobody knows this protest is happening because the Egyptian government is censoring all of the hashtags being used. So I'm really kind of worried that if that, forget about China as a state controlling the Middle East, but really the technology, the surveillance systems, the values of authoritarianism being okay or the one-party system being exported into the Middle East, because that's definitely going to empower the authoritarians over there. They're going to make it difficult more and more for civil society actors, for human rights defenders to really do something. That's something that really worries me quite tremendously about the kind of the Chinese rising influence in the Middle East and elsewhere, really.
It's really, I mean, amazing point that you made is that it is almost like shocking for me, right? Like we came to this country and we love this country, we love America so much with all our hearts. And then we are in this country where people are so busy hating each other within. There's so much hate, so much division, and the mainstream media are so trying to see the hating us, distrusting us, and I mean, I don't know, maybe I am like witnessing how this greatest Western civilization is falling in front of my eyes. Or maybe this is how America always has been. I have no clue. I wasn't born here, right? We came here like a few years ago.
Yes, so did I, yeah.
And so the thing is that I just don't get it. Like, I mean, as you said, right? China does, already importing those technologies, surveillance technology. They importing to North Korea, and I don't even know other countries. And I know also friends from Indonesia, Africa, how China has been building, like investing, building things and make them that they have to be on the side of China, right? Even in the US right now, all these Ivy League schools, they are getting money from China. all this research, everything, the media companies, they get funding from China.
Yeah.
We are because like so many of us being owned by China. And how do you think? Why do you think where there's not such a like a rise or movement to counter this evil authoritarian regime in China?
Well, I mean, another observation. I mean, there's a lot of observations I've had, but there's an observation that I think many American audience will be kind of interested to hear. So there's a channel called Al Jazeera, and Al Jazeera is owned by the state of Qatar in the Middle East. So Al Jazeera has two faces. They have an Arabic version and an English version. And the Arabic version is hardcore, conspiratorial, anti-America, pro-Muslim Brotherhood, all of that stuff. In English, they try to focus on whatever division there is in American society. So they have videos about racial justice, economic inequality, stuff of that sort, which is in a way like Qatar as a country has a slave labor.
Right.
Like their stadiums, I mean, the World Cup, there was a lot of fuss about that. They actually have like the equivalent of modern day slave labor. In Arabic, that's okay. In English, they talk about Black Lives Matter and racial injustice in America. You have a slave labor in your country. Like
like Qataris bring their actual North Koreans as slaves and use them and build their statues, everything right now.
Yeah. Yes. So I think is that it is, and that this is not necessarily conspiratorial per se, because I know that Russia has also played a role in doing that. Is that and not to go too much into details, but I think is that one of the things about freedom, of free societies, is that they are very fragile, and what happens is that they like you can. I mean, authoritarian societies are fragile too, but what was different is that they control the flow of information. They have a control about how things are. But in free societies, there is no absolute control. So as a result, the information is democratized, and you can. So in a way, it's like Russia today can operate in the U.S. to spread division, but U.S. channels cannot operate in Russia. By default, there is that disadvantage: is that authoritarian states can operate in free societies, but the free societies cannot operate in authoritarian states. So we cannot establish a channel inside Iran supporting the Iranian opposition. But Iran can establish a channel inside the United States supporting American opposition or supporting anybody who is. So what I think is very important, which is something that and I've seen some organizations are trying to do this. I think that the Washington University in St. Louis trying to do something is number thing. I think with America is like for us is like we have to learn it the hard way, right? We know what authoritarianism look like, and what I think many Americans need to do is really be informed. I mean, the other thing that is to be informed of read as much content as possible. Also be informed about how to navigate media. When you see a video by Russia Today showing police hitting people or people hitting police, it is very likely when Russia Today is publishing this video, they're not trying to report on facts. They have a purpose why they're stirring these videos up, and they are trying to get you to watch. So not to be conspiratorial, because I know sometimes it's like that gun goes too far into the way where somebody thinks that, I don't know, the fact it's not raining today is because of Russian conspiracy. But the thing is that I have like a lot of friends who are well-educated Americans who I see them like sharing videos from AJ Plus about racial justice and sharing videos from Russia Today about police brutality and stuff. Not to discount these subjects, but the fact is that many Americans are media illiterate to the fact that they don't differentiate that there is a factual source and non-factual source, and there is state-run media that is coming from authoritarians to free societies that try to stir up decision. I think there was this story, I don't know who covered it, but maybe it was NPR, in which so there was this person who I think was they believe is a bot of some sort. He created two events, and that's when Trump became president. And created one event says Trump is my president, and the other event was Trump is not my president. So he did one event that is based in I think in New York by Columbus Circle, and the other one is in Alabama, saying Trump is my president. And what he was doing, or what the bot was doing, was really stirring shit up here, stirring shit up here. So and then getting them to like hate each other, and then screenshot the content of people hating Trump and putting it in the page pro Trump, and then screenshotting the thing of people loving Trump into the page of people hating Trump. So as a result, and he's the same person. So it's the same person or the same people doing this. So they were like getting people organized, and they're like being anti-Trump, getting organized, being pro-Trump. And they were sharing posts between each other, and people are falling for it. And I think is that people like here, I mean, I've been living here 7 years, and I think is really being media literate, because there's one thing to be literate is to know how to read, but there's one thing is to differentiate between fact and fiction, and being to differentiate between information coming from authoritarian states and information coming from free societies. And I think that is very important because I think part of the division is the fact that people are not like able to differentiate, and with social media and everything being amplified to a million, then you have just chaos, which I think what we're facing right now.
I really like, the literacy media having to verify the sources, right? That's very important part. I mean, I went to university in America, and the fact that entire 4 years I spent, hating white men and what a horrible thing they were, and how they ruined every single thing in this world, right? That's what I was studying at Columbia, or entire 4 years. And now I'm actually still like my morning routine is like listening to NPR, BBC, and like Fox, and like going to a lot of my like podcasters that I like. Everybody talks about different story. And so let's say like Al Jazeera or like Russia Today, they are this propaganda machine from these authoritarian states. What are the trusting sources that you think in America that people can rely on? Which are the ones that are unbiased source you can claim actually they are telling the truth? Which newspaper is that?
The answer is none, but the long answer
exactly.
is the long answer is, I mean, here's how I look at news, and maybe that could be a good example of maybe people can like maybe comment on, is when I hear of something, I search that on the internet, and then I find if it's something I care about, like something about, I mean, related to my work and related to my daily life, is that I check 5-6 sources that I know to some extent have a different point of view. So for example, I mean, I'm a subscriber to the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times. And when I read, I try to actually match both the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal and see what do these both agree on, because obviously they're coming from completely different perspective. And that's how I was able to kind of get narrow to the truth, or closer to the truth, by because I mean obviously that's a philosophical conversation about what is the meaning of truth, but really, like, to get to know the facts is to get to see as many many different sources that are different from the political spectrum, that are reporting on things, so that's like number one. That's how, like, as a tool, what do I do to number two, is really see the claim that is being made, and what evidence that they have to support this claim. So if there is there's, I don't know, crime on Fulton Street, very local news media, there's crime on Fulton Street, then I'm going to ABC New York, and okay, they have like pictures of stars being like looted or something like that. So in that way, there's like evidence. Okay, there's crime on Fulton Street, and there's photos and videos matching the claim being made. And really, the third thing is, and maybe because I'm a boring person, so maybe that's my personality thing, but I much prefer the raw articles over opinion pieces. So there are two types of, there's raw article in which this happened in this and this. So it's like, it's boring, but this is what I prefer as versus an opinion section or a talk show. So there's a lot of business in America in the talk show, right? You have the Sean Hannity and Rachel Maddow, and which is unfortunately by some people they think this is the news, and it is not the news. This is the news filtered out through an opinion of a news show host. And however, but what I find is that these shows are very interesting. So it's like when like I've watched multiple MSNBC and Fox and all that stuff, and really it gets you like sitting. This is interesting. Like you see like somebody shouting on the screen and like getting riled up and they're destroying our homes and all of that stuff. So it gets you riled up and exciting. But this is entertainment. So like if people are I think it's important for people to like, yes, this is entertainment. This is not the news. This is a filtered version of the news in which somebody is being paid $1 million a year to make you stick watching television so the ad agencies will make more money. This is the business model. They get you like sitting, you're eating your Cheetos, having a Budweiser, and he's like telling you all of this stuff, and you're getting riled up. And he goes to sleep. He goes have a glass of wine, be with his wife, meet his friends, and go to sleep. And you're riled up about that your like suburb is going to be destroyed tomorrow. So I think is that people able to differentiate these two between like this is like raw report telling like raw facts, X thing happened led to Y, all that stuff, and then being able to draw conclusion from that versus like watching a talk show. And if there's like people like really sometimes getting their news from Comedy Central, like it's called Comedy Central. So it is like when you watch it, it's meant for entertainment. Like whatever being said should definitely be taken as a grain of salt. You go there, you just enjoy the show, enjoy the 30 minutes and leave. You don't take that as it's some sort of a of a thesis. It's entertainment. And I think what I think has been kind of dangerous kind of mix is that news and entertainment became like the main industry. Is that I think that mix is kind of dangerous. Is that people do not differentiate that like what is entertainment and what is news.
I completely agree. Yeah.
I think so as I said, like my answer is that no, there is no the truth source. However, there are skills that if you develop, you are more likely to be aware of truth than you are not aware of truth.
That is like what is America's lacking? This media is like cut out all this complexity and always claim something as one is a truth, right? In order to know the truth, there are so many different ways they need to combine together. There's not like one newspaper we can go to and this is all truth. I'm gonna read this only from now on.
Yeah. I mean, just being. I mean, for example, like let's at least from like Middle East, just read our Middle East analysis. Is that I am like just knowing also the political biases of these news media channels is like it's a prerequisite to before you even know the truth. So you know like when it was the Obama administration, Fox is going to have an opinion and NBC is going to have a completely different opinion, right?
Yeah.
And just knowing these, and when it's the opposite, it's the other way around. Even though now Fox is not considered is being attacked these days, but I think is that just knowing these. So, for example, when the kind of the latest deal between the Israel and the UAE, which is the peace accord that was signed and all of that stuff, you see that because it was under Trump administration or under right-wing administration, most of the mainstream or left-leaning media were not happy about the thing, and they tried to downplay. So in a way, this is like a historic deal. And it's like the fact that UAE, it's where Dubai is located, is a center for trade, a center for media, and it's a very important country. Yes, it's a small country, but it's a very important country. and the fact that it signed a deal with Israel is a big deal. And however, like I was saying, like the scene kind of when left wing commentating all of that stuff, were just bashing the hell out of the deal or trying to find, oh, but Israel and the UAE were never at war, so there is no peace deal between. No, I mean it's symbolic. Oh, come on, like you don't understand symbolic language now, and and the same like so just knowing that is is like yes when obviously the left wing media, however, is like when also when Qasem Soleimani was killed, that's the one of the Iranian generals that was killed by the Trump administration. I mean, this guy was a terrorist.
Yeah.
He is responsible for the killing of not just American soldiers, but really killing of organizing militias and death squads to kill many human rights activists and many freedom fighters and dissidents and all of that stuff. And the natural response to the killing of this guy was not necessarily to celebrate the death, but really acknowledge that the world is a better place because we have the leader of the death squad running around on the streets of Baghdad. However, the response was hysterical about the fact that, oh, no, that's wrong. Maybe we shouldn't have done that. Maybe we should. However, when Obama killed Osama bin Laden, who's also another terrorist, the media was celebrating that.
Yeah.
Look at the amazing what Obama is doing, even though from just purely logistical sense, when Osama bin Laden was killed, he was already irrelevant. He was already really in his retirement 401k house. He was not an active member of an organization. When Qasem Soleimani was killed, he was a leader and an active leader of a terrorist organization, which means that his killing was actually more blow to this terrorist organization than it was the killing of Osama bin Laden. However, so that is like from pure logistical sense. So in a way, it's like if somebody's interested in world peace or Middle East security and all that stuff, they would value the killing of Qasem Soleimani much more than they would value the killing of Osama bin Laden. Because that was merely symbolic because he was responsible for 9/11 and then he was killed. So that's like a good story. However, if you look at the media coverage of that and you see like really like until today President Obama was talking about the killing of bin Laden and he's celebrated by the media of him doing that amazingly historical thing. Well, one of the main leaders of terrorist groups, which is both the leader of ISIS and Qasem Soleimani, were killed by Trump administration, and yet the coverage was barely minimal. And in fact, it was not minimal. It was people downplaying the importance of really killing two active leaders of terrorist groups. And so just knowing these, in a way, it's terrible, right? Like if somebody is like really not interested on these subjects and trying just to read the news and see whatever goes in the news feed, it's because they're going to see whatever is easy to access, and then as a result, they will get these amazingly biased, politicized narratives, and they're not going to get the facts. And so because obviously I care about the subjects, I know what is what, and I know who to reach out to and what journalists I think are more factual. But it definitely puts like a lot of blame that needs to be made on kind of these mainstream channels to be fact checkers and be pro-truth versus being really a politicized, narrative-based organizations, which is like we have a narrative that we want to push. So if it was like right wing, oh, Trump is good. So anything that he does has to be through the lens of him being good. And then it's like the Trump is bad, the narrative is Trump is bad, and therefore we're gonna downplay any good he does, and then highlight only the bad things he does. So I mean that definitely creates a very polarized society. I mean, I lived in a civil war, so I've seen kind of the end extreme of people really killing each other because of differences of religious differences and political differences. And with America, I mean, it is kind of the polarization and the I wouldn't say it's going to get to a civil war, but however,
Mm-hmm.
it does build seeds. Like I know people who hate the other side. Like I know people who hate Republicans, and I know people who hate Democrats. And I think one of the benefits of both of us as immigrants is that we get along. we try to get along with as many people as possible. However, is like I see people literally hating, destroying friendships, not talking to their friends. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Thanksgiving is coming. I know people who are not attending Thanksgiving because their uncle has a, oh, I don't want to go see my uncle. He supports this party and he supports this party.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yes, this is not a civil war, but is not good. It's just not good to see families and friendships and this is definitely going to create like a seed, a fertile ground for extremist groups, for militias, for so that's definitely like something that really like I mean Americans have to be aware of because civil war is not, it's not cool. Yes, it's not, authoritarianism is not cool. Civil war is not cool, and like really, other than spending all their time bashing America and bashing how terrible life is, maybe they should work to improve it. Because that's I think is and obviously the authoritarians are feeding that narrative. So all of these
Mm-hmm.
Russia Todays, GTNs, oh, there's Americans are fighting about race. Let me make a news piece about their race and let me stir things up because they know that yeah they can do that. They're free to do that and they can really benefit. I mean, the weaker America is, the stronger they are. As
Uh-huh.
simple as that. So if more America is busy fighting each other,
Mm-hmm.
then China and Russia can expand to the Middle East. They can do whatever they want. Nobody's going to stop them.
Yeah.
And that is really, I think, like part of the mentality of why they want to start divisions here. Because I mean, I'm sure you get it too. Like I get it sometimes. Like, oh, so Faisal, why do we need to care about the Middle East? We have enough issues here.
Yeah. What do you say about that?
I mean, I start with like, I mean, there is no right response, but generally the thing I believe in, which is really true, is that I say is like the Middle East is the opposite of Las Vegas. What happens in the Middle East doesn't stay in the Middle East.
That's
So,
funny. It's
so
so
so the Middle East is relevant whether you like it or not. It is the center of the world and one of the richest regions of the world, and also the birthplace of most religions that are believed in the world. All the conflicts that exist, whether it's the Syrian civil war or the Iraq civil war, all of that stuff have produced millions of refugees. They migrate to Europe. So really, you should care. Just from personal benefit, you should care, in my opinion.
yeah.
From the other thing, obviously, the other factual argument is no, you don't have the same thing here. Number one, you don't have the same. I remember I was in UC Berkeley of all places,
Mm-hmm.
and I was giving a talk, and I was really like talking about like the rise of ISIS. That was like when ISIS was just rising, and like I'm talking about beheadings and gays being thrown from rooftops and all that stuff. And student came in like and said, Faisal, we have the same thing here.
Oh my
And
gosh.
and I was like, what? You have this? I was like I was just having a falafel at Berkeley Avenue or something. What do you have? Like you were gays thrown from the buildings in Berkeley, California,
yeah.
and and she was like, no, no. What I meant is like, oh, we also have a lot of terrorist groups, and we have Nazis, and I'm like you don't have ISIS like a group like ISIS. Like yes, there are like some attacks of far right extremists, but by default it is not. But so like, there's no comparison between an
Yeah.
active militia taking over a full city in, by lived by 4 million people and somebody smoking weed in UC Berkeley thinking that they're being taken over by Nazis. So I think is that like not to downplay that the fact there's also like form of extremism here in the States, but not anyway comparison. So really, I mean, this would be like my main line of defense is that for
Mm.
your personal benefit, you should care. is because this is a region that's, I think it's like 60% of the world conflicts are in the Middle East. I think that's the UN report. And so, I mean, all these conflicts, I mean, there's now a term called the MENA region, which is the Middle East and North Africa. And North Africa is Morocco, Algeria. They are just across the road from Spain. I mean, Spain is just like, you can just take a boat and go to Spain from there. And Libya, same. It's all the Mediterranean states, and also with Syria, it's also on the Mediterranean. It's so just from that perspective, I think you should care. And also like some of the same groups that happen in the Middle East, like ISIS, has also done attacks in Europe. They have also done attacks in the United States. So I mean, so yes, it does matter that we go to the source of where many of these groups are being inspired, and so that's like from purely like international security. But then obviously there's this crazy argument that's like Berkeley is as bad as ISIS controlled territory, and it's not. So I think like there is no equivalence, and honestly, I mean I don't really force people to care about my cause, but I mean, if people think that I mean, what domestic is what they care about is what they care about. They don't need to justify why they care about domestic politics more than international politics. They'll be like, oh, like I live here, so that's what I care about. You don't have to like say, oh, we have bad things in America as well. So like you should not justify this. Like every American citizen has to care about America before they care about the world. That's I think that's pretty reasonable.
Right.
And so I'm not like asking people that, oh, you have to care about my cause, you have to care about the Middle East. No, but you not caring about the Middle East, you don't have to justify not caring about the Middle East by saying the Middle East is US as bad as the Middle East. Like you don't have to. You actually can care about America without making this claim that it is as bad over here as over there, which I think is a pretty like wildly crazy. Which is unfortunately is common. It's not. I'm sure you've heard it like multiple times. I think by now probably heard it like maybe 50, 60 times.
Yeah. I hear it every day on my comments here, literally.
Okay, so probably I will get it. I'll get it as well. Yes, I've heard it at like conferences from the West Coast to the East Coast, the Midwest to, yeah, very like and all like centered down into, which is like, I mean, it doesn't obviously diminish the importance of my work, but also it's like one of the things maybe like a good ending notes, and that way I don't take so much of your time, is so that's I think what I believe as like a organizer, as somebody who cares about building a movement out freedom and stuff like that. We really don't need to get everybody to agree with us. I mean, there's kind of a need to like, oh, everybody has to like what we do, therefore we have to succeed. No, you just need to have enough people to like what you do in order for you to succeed. So like even in democratic, especially in democratic states, I mean, sometimes you just need 51% of the vote to win an election. You don't need 100% of the vote. Only like under Saddam Hussein, you get 100% of the votes. Nobody does. There is nowhere else that you can get 100% of the vote other than dictatorships.
Right.
So the thing is that, yes, there are people who not necessarily like what we do, and we shouldn't take it personally, and that shouldn't stop us from those of us who do believe in these should support each other. Should I mean, you're supporting me, you're providing myself venue. So providing me a venue to speak. I connected each other. Just as, for example, just it's two of us, right? You help me, I helped you. Like all of this kind of like genuine friendship and support is, I think, what we need as a whole. I think all of us who do believe, whether even the people who are watching the show, is they can. I mean, one of the things is that ideal is that they like we organize in a larger organization, but I'm more than happy to like make IBB to also be that bridge, a platform for people to care. So people can go to my website or our website, ideasbeyondborders.org. They can if they like this interview, they can please contact me and tell me that I'm lovely and I'm a handsome man. And maybe, maybe they give me their Instagram. They can follow me on Instagram, my modeling account, so they can be impressed with my leather jacket. I see that there's a lot of organizations, HRF, us, FIRE, there are a lot of organizations that cares about these values. Yeah, I hope we will all be united. These people who are watching this show should contact me and contact us to really be visible. For this movement to exist, all of us need to stand for something and be visible and be known and get our voices heard.
It's been, I mean, I could listen to you like forever and ever, and the last past hour like felt like nothing. I think I can see why. I mean, you've been on David Rubin for like 5 times, right? You're the most frequent guest on his show. I think
yes, I think I am. Yeah.
I mean, it's been incredible. I mean, you've been shining a light on a lot of darker issues that most mainstream media didn't cover. And what you do is, I mean, like as a freedom defenders like us, we need a lot of allies. And I think so many people on this channel, I've been getting to know average people, like not the people in the New York Times or BBC. Actually, the main just average people are way more in the center. They are not as divided as the media describes, and they actually care about everything that we just talked about. They care about truth and helping others. I think that's why I think it would be a good opportunity for them to know you and get to know you and join your movement of spreading and freedom in Middle East and around the globe virtually.
Yeah, I mean, just to add one thing to what you're saying is, I mean, I have been to 40 states in America. Like, I mean, I've been living in America and most people here are very wonderful. Like my experience,
lovely people.
Yeah, my experience in America has been. I mean, this year it was my second Thanksgiving as an American citizen, and
wow.
I'm so I'm always happy to like be in America and also be connected, to the average American. Like this kind of political circus is not representative of like really the majority. I think majority of people are caring, are loving, and I'm glad that you are reaching them because these are the people who need to be reached, and I'm so glad that I'm able to reach them through your show.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I don't think there's anything I can. Entire this time, I've been like, I agree, because everything you said was so right. I cannot agree with you more. That is certain, definitely a truth that everyone needs to be aware. It's an honor to have you on this show, and I cannot wait to have you back.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Yeonmi.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day.
You too. Thank you.
Yeah.